So the Washington Justice re-signed Ark. I think that's a good move. I think the Washington Justice needs somebody like Ark who can tie together the English-speaking and Korean-speaking aspects of their team. I'll tell you a story, though. When we used to listen to communication, and I've said this before, so this isn't some brand new stuff, but when we used to be able to listen into the comms, the Washington Justice, when they only had Corey speaking on their team, would speak purely in Korean. Basically, like almost 100% Korean. And Corey would just be sat there like... And then when Ark joined the team, we all thought that Ark would be able to translate for them or something like that. And we listened to the comms, and it was still like 99% Korean. And even when Ark and Wizard Hyung, who is also fluent, totally fluent, wonderful English skills, even when both of those guys were talking to the team, they never translated anything for Corey. I don't know whether Corey could secretly speak Korean or something, but as far as I could tell, it was just like the monkey with cymbals in his head, just like... as everybody else is just swirling torrents of Korean speak around him. And then when Sleepy joined the team, they all decided to speak English instead. Which I thought was super, super strange. But it was like a night and day difference as soon as Sleepy joined the team. And then they continued to speak in English and get better at communication in English. I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe management talked to them, or maybe, Wizard Chong decided it was the right direction for the team or something. I don't know. But in general, having Ark on your team should be really good for you. But, okay, and then let's before we talk about the Washington Justice in general, let's move on to this Halo report. Because he said, Halo sources, the Washington Justice have signed former Boston Uprising flex support, Aim God, also known as Jeff. I think this is a good move as well. I mean, obviously last season they had Guido and they had Sleepy, and I guess Stratus actually played Zen for them at some point on like Hollywood as well. But yeah, I would say I honestly think that Aim God is one of the most talented flex supports that we had in the league in 2018. In my opinion, top 3. And although he may well have been surpassed by a bunch of the newcomers in the league, I think that Aim God is very talented, and the reasons that he got benched on Boston were twofold. I think the guy probably has a problem with authority a little, especially in such a hierarchical system like the Boston Uprising. Maybe he's not the best person to have on a mixed nationality team, but who knows? That's pure speculation. As far as I know, the Boston Uprising team ended up making up with him and like actually were perfectly fine playing with him towards the latter half of the season. But it was like a contract thing that they knew Aim God was gone, so they wanted to work on Persia and maybe see if they could sell him, or maybe because they just thought Persia was the better deal for the long term. I don't know. But as far as I'm aware, Aim God had some issues previously with, like, I don't really want to say toxicity because I don't know what the nature of the issue was, but for some kind of behavioral reason, I think he got benched a couple of times on Boston Uprising throughout 2018 and 2019. But I think that might have been more to do with Boston and how it specifically clashed with Aim God's mentality rather than him himself. I think the Washington Justice could do very well with a backline of Aim God and Ark. That's a pretty fucking solid backline, Aim God and Ark. You could do work. They're not going to let you down. As for the team as a whole, though, what have they now done? I'm just going to look them up on Liquipedia, because I think they've now got Washington Justice. They've got Corey and Stratus on DPS along with Tuba. That's weird. That's a weird DPS trio, in my opinion. It could be good. Corey's hit scan is very strong. I was watching him at the World Cup and I was like marveling at how good his raw aim is. His like tracking ability is actually nuts, and he hits so much on DPS. Tuba, I've seen some good stuff from, but I don't really think of him as a superstar. I think of him more as like a rising talent that could be okay, but I don't think he's gonna make waves. Yeah, Corey is also good on projectiles as well, you're right. I mean, his Hanzo was bananas when he played that. But yeah, I think Corey and Tuba and Stratus could be a fairly decent trio. I don't think it's gonna light the world on fire, but I think it could be pretty good. Then you have the backline of Ark and allegedly Aim God. I think that's good. It's the tank line that's the problem for me. or not even a problem, but just like a concern. Because Elephant and Lulsish were pretty good in contenders, bordering on very good. But I think there is a big, big gap between contenders good, especially in EU and NA, and Owl good. And I also am worried because Raw has been added to the team. And even though I think Raw is serviceable, he's not the best in the world. And if you have playoff aspirations, I think Raw might end up being one of the weaker players on your roster. And if you have 2 weaker players on your roster, then like 2 weaker tanks, then that's where I start to get worried. I think though that Washington Justice are maybe 1 star tank signing away from being a top 5, no, maybe top 8 team. Yeah, maybe top 8 is more reasonable for them. Like, they are definitely a playoff contender. If they picked up somebody like Meko, the thing is, I just don't know how Meko would fit in with this team. It's such a mishmash of players at this point as well. I'm not so worried about Aim God, but I am slightly concerned about just how their tanks are going to work with Corey and Stratus.